Number 10, Yondu. Yondu's only showing up on such a low spot on this list because I'm considering this point like kind of a mashup of all three versions. Some are more powerful, some are less. We have the original Yondu of Earth 691, the new Yondu of Earth 616, and of course the MCU Yondu. All are pretty cool characters, but the MCU one is by far the most powerful. It's kind of a combination of all of them too, though, in my mind. Yondu in the MCU is depicted as being a Ravager who has a specialized fin that with his whistling allows him to control his Yaka arrow. In the newest version from the comics from Earth 616, Yondu was exiled from his tribe and ended up deciding to abandon his home world of Century 4, becoming a space explorer and a looter. On the Earth of 691, Yondu has no powers and is simply a skilled fighter and gifted sort of mystical empath who ends up returning to his home world after serving as an original Guardians of the Galaxy member to raise a family. Number 9, Kitty Pryde. A favorite guest star of mine on the Guardians team is Kitty Pryde, who even stood in as their replacement Starlord for a while when Quill was off trying to basically be a ruler of Spartax. Kitty got roped into being on the team when she began a long-distance relationship with Quill. For a time, the pair were even engaged. Kitty joined the team and became Starlord after she had received a power boost from the Black Vortex. It was because of this power boost that Kitty was able to save Spartax, phasing it out of an amber encasing. When Quill became ruler of Spartax, this created tension between the pair, as Quill became more and more busy and had less and less time for his and Kitty's relationship. This led Kitty to feel more and more alone, and because of this, she would throw herself more and more into her hero work with the Guardians, and would eventually take up Quill's abandoned mantle of Star-Lord, which I think Quill was also kind of jealous of. Like, he was like, why did you take my mantle? Number 8, Groot. When it comes to strength, Groot is likely one of the most powerful Guardians to ever have been a member. He hails from Planet X, a Flora Colossi who did not get along with the other members of his race and ended up being kicked off the planet, causing him to wander the galaxy. Poor Groot. Groot, previous to joining the team, had already befriended and fought alongside Rocket Raccoon and Star-Lord, so it was a relatively easy transition for him to join the Guardians of the Galaxy team. Because prior to that, he was already basically doing that stuff. Number 7, Nova. Nova has been an on and off again member of the team for some time. The Nova we're talking about today, of course, is Richard Rider. He grew up on Earth and was randomly chosen to become a member of the Nova Corps when he was still a teenager. He has had many adventures with the Guardians of the Galaxy and is currently on the roster in the latest series, volume number 6 from 2020. Nova is immensely powerful across the board. Super strong, super durable, super fast. He can heal, emit energy blasts by channeling the Nova Force, and through his connection with the world mind has access to a vast knowledge of Xandarian knowledge, making him super smart as well. And friends, before we move on to this next spot, if you are loving this list and you want more Guardians lists, I know I want to do more for you, please show us some love by giving this video a thumbs up. Hey! Number 6, Cosmo. Cosmo is everyone's favorite psionic space dog, and he is no lightweight when it comes to power levels either. You may recognize this goodest boy from the MCU, where he appeared as an exhibit in the Collector's expansive collection. In the comics, Cosmo joined the Guardians as a supporting character and ally for space adventures way back as early as Volume 2 of the series from 2008, kind of the reboot of the Guardians of the Galaxy, if you will. When dealing with the Cancerverse, he proved how formidable of a hero he was when he swiftly took out a bunch of Cancerverse alternate heroes with one single psionic command. Boom. Number 5, Captain Marvel. Captain Marvel is likely one of the most powerful cosmic heroes that we have out there, and also for a time ran with the Guardians of the Galaxy. This happened after one of the many times that Carol had lost her memories, or more in this case, I guess, like, lost the emotional attachment to her memories. It's kind of weird. She was still seen as kind of remembering who people were, but remembering something important to her and her love of her friends was a little bit more tricky. She didn't really have that emotional connection to people or to her memories. In order to save New York, she was forced to fly high up into the sky, and because she had a tumor in her brain and was told specifically not to fly as she risked dying at the time, she suffered brain damage that affected her memory. In order to learn more about who she truly was inside, she decided to leave Earth for a time and venture among the stars, eventually joining up with the Guardians of the Galaxy. You can check out Carol's cool space adventures and watch her flying high with the Guardians in the 2014 Captain Marvel series, volume number 8, starting in issue 2. Also, for anyone that wants to come at me about how many Captain Marvel series there have been and blame Carol for that, look, Carol didn't even come in until I think about halfway through all of those, so just a heads up. People in the comments always want to come after Carol. I love Carol, so I'm gonna fight for her. Civil War II was not her fault. It was just weird writing, guys. Wasn't really her. Number 4, Starhawk. Starhawk is one of the members of the original Guardians of the Galaxy roster, before they reached mega fame status in the comic book world. But just because some of the older members aren't as well known, doesn't mean they don't deserve to be celebrated or respected. Some of them are evidently very, very powerful. Starhawk is one such Guardian, although not my favorite of the oldest original team members. We still don't even fully know the limits of Starhawk's power, but what we do know is that he has a multiversal knowledge that grants him great insight. He was basically living the same life cycle and using that knowledge way before Moira McTaggart made it cool. It is because of this that he knows so much about the world around him, giving him sort of a precognitive sense. Starhawk is also super strong, super fast, and immortal. Number 3, Thor. Yep, when Thor joined the team in the MCU, he even made reference to another version of the Guardians of the Galaxy roster referred to as the Asgardians of the Galaxy. This is what Thor jokingly refers to the team as in the film, but it's actually also the name of a separate team from the comics. There's a real Asgardians of the Galaxy comic. It's got like a totally different team pretty much, but you should check it out. We don't know in the MCU if Thor will end up staying on as a permanent member of the Guardians, but sometimes the strongest members to this team are the ones that come and go. Thor is one of the most powerful heroes in the Marvel Universe, definitely in the MCU as well. He even attempted to go toe-to-toe with Null during the King in Black event recently, and impressively held his own, even managing to get a hit in where he smashed off Null's jaw. I was like, what just happened? That fight was crazy. We also got to see Storm and Thor team up. So good. Number 2, Star-Lord. Star-Lord typically isn't known for being the most powerful member of the Guardians of the Galaxy, despite the fact that he is one of the most recognizable members thanks to the films and recent comics, and is generally the leader of the team, or is generally depicted as being the leader of the team. However, recently he's got a major power upgrade. While thought dead, it turned out that he had survived the fight against the Olympians and the explosion that had been thought to have killed him. Instead, he was transported to another dimension and another world entirely. There, his element gun seemed to have an everlasting power source, something that would be useful on his return. For Quill, almost 200 years had passed, though of course, probably in part thanks to his Spartax heritage, he looked as though he had barely aged upon his return. Also, maybe time moves differently in another dimension. There's a lot of good explanations for that. His element gun was used to defeat one of Null's symbiote dragons, and he also managed to withstand a mental assault from Null, who tried to drag him and the Guardians into the darkness. Number 1, Adam Warlock. Obviously, Adam Warlock had to make the top of this list. He's one of the most powerful characters in the Marvel Universe, and even though we haven't seen him for a while, he's still out there, lurking, with lots of power still to boot, even, without the Soul Stone. Adam Warlock has been capable in the past of manipulating the very fabric of reality. He's been on a god level before. I mean, he still kinda is. When we saw the new Guardians team in the comics, Adam Warlock joined up with them to defeat Ultron, and then ultimately ended up joining the team. Together they set out on a great task to repair the universe. That sounds like a lot of work.
Coming in at number 10, we got Cosmic Ghost Rider. And before you ask, yes, he is just as cool as he sounds. Cosmic Ghost Rider is actually Frank Castle from an alternate dimension, and he has a few classic Ghost Rider abilities such as generating Hellfire and the Penance Stare, but this incarnation of Ghost Rider can also manipulate cosmic energy thanks to Galactus. Oh, and he's immortal, so, he's in it for the long haul. Number 9, Kitty Pryde. Kitty, a mutant and originally a member of the X-Men, ended up joining the Guardians of the Galaxy later on in her superhero career. Imagine being part of the X-Men and Guardians? That's so darn cool. She also married one of the most famous Guardians ever, Star-Lord himself, Peter Quill. And when Peter left to become king of the new Spartax Empire, Kitty took on the mantle of Star-Lord. She can also use her powers to phase through solid objects, and in the Days of Future Past comic storyline, she was able to phase her own consciousness into her younger self in the past. Okay, if that's not powerful, then I have no idea what is. Number 8, Captain Marvel. Carol Danvers was a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. She wasn't there very long, but she was there. Carol Danvers joined the team when she lost her memory. Being on the team really, it helped her grow into the hero we know and love. Also, having super strength, super speed, flight, invulnerability, energy absorption, energy projection, energy manipulation, regeneration, healing, and hyper cosmic awareness might help out the team, just a tiny little bit. And by a little bit, I mean a lot. Like seriously, I wouldn't want to mess with her. Number 7, Iron Man. Yeah, you heard me. Oh wait, did you not hear me? I said Iron Man, sorry, that confusion, I'm new. So, Iron Man, aka Tony Stark, joined the team during the Marvel Now run. He even had a brand new fancy suit for the occasion. Iron Man armor number 45 to be exact. And yes, I am always exact. It was designed so he could fly through space without any weird complications because space, it has a ton of those. The suit was powered by multiple repulsor tech cores and can shoot repulsor rays, create force fields, and has a new AI, Pepper. Man, I wonder why he called it that. Number 6. Adam Warlock. Adam was created as the perfect being. Man, what a hard thing to live up to. Imagine everyone telling you that you had to be perfect. It would be hard on anyone. He was created by a group called the Enclave, and was the first step toward creating a race of humans who would one day rule the Earth. But, and it's a big but, he rebelled and turned against them and went off on his own, as they usually do. And his powers include enhanced strength, stamina, agility. He can manipulate cosmic energy. He eventually got the Soul Gem though, and became even more powerful, so, there's that as well. Number 5. Drax the Destroyer. Drax, also called Arthur Douglas, was actually born in California. He was married, he had a daughter, but one day they were just traveling through the desert, just on a nice family trip, and saw a spaceship above them. Spoiler alert, it was Thanos. So Thanos did what he does best, and killed Arthur and his family. Wow, Thanos, just wow. A dude named Mentor, who was monitoring Thanos, showed up and called upon Kronos to merge Arthur's consciousness into a body with superhuman powers, thus creating Drax the Destroyer. Now, his mission is to kill Thanos. He also ended up joining the Guardians of the Galaxy to help with that. Number 4. Groot. I am Groot. Now, okay, if you didn't understand that, all I said was Groot is a tree-like alien being who originated on a planet called Planet X. Everyone thought they were wiped out, but it turns out they weren't. He's one of the founding members of Star-Lord's team and has a wide array of powers. He's super strong. He can create miniature copies of himself, so, if he gets destroyed, he's all good, because they retain all his memories. It's just like backing up your hard drive in a sense. And, he's also super durable, because he is a tree. Oh, yeah. And he says I am Groot, but that's just his language, so, don't judge him on that. Number 3. Rocket Raccoon. His name is a pretty good description. He is a raccoon, but not a normal one. He originated from the planet Half-World, which was a home to an insane asylum. In order to keep the patients happy, they genetically altered their pets to kind of give them human intelligence in a way. What? That's so weird. But Rocket became sheriff on that planet and had a ship called the Rack and Ruin, which he used to travel the stars. He's also a master of weapons and building things, so if you or anyone need a cool weapon, he's your guy. Raccoon. Number 2, Gamora. Gamora is Thanos' adopted daughter. She is the last of her species, and Thanos rescued her and took her in as a kid and basically trained her to become the most feared woman in the, universe? She is arguably one of the best martial artists in the Marvel universe, which allows her to even take on people who are way stronger than her. But, she's also very strong, and has even taken on Thanos from time to time. And she can heal really fast, she is fast, and she is a master with weapons. Now I can kind of tell why she's called the most feared woman in the universe. Number 1, Star-Lord. Peter Quill is a human-alien mix. His father was from Spartax. His father came to Earth, had a relationship with his mother, Meredith Quill, but then she was killed by someone named Badoon because, he didn't want them together. He then started to travel space and protect people from Badoon. He doesn't have any superpowers, but he is fast, he's great in hand-to-hand combat, and he has a ton of cool gadgets. So I wouldn't feel bad for him. He's doing all right.
Number 10, Cosmo. Starting off our list today with the goodest of boys, Cosmo the dog. Cosmo was originally a test animal used by the Soviets during the space race between the Soviet Union and the United States in the 1960s. He was launched into orbit around Earth but drifted a bit off course and found himself in nowhere. And thanks to the exposure of cosmic rays, he developed telepathic and telekinetic powers. Although he doesn't look like much, you definitely shouldn't let your guard down around him, because with these powers he can create shields and deflect energy-based attacks, as well as project mind blast at enemies. He has straight up gone toe to toe with Adam Warlock, so like, you know, he's pretty tough. Cosmo doesn't become an official member of the Guardians of the Galaxy until after the team disbanded after they allied with Thanos, and many of them died. Just before Star-Lord died, he left Cosmos with a task to collect the greatest heroes in the universe to form a band of Annihilators. The team Star-Lord believed was what the Guardians of the Galaxy should have been. Cosmo one by one convinced the Silver Surfer, Gladiator, Beta Ray Bill, Quasar, and Ronan the Accuser to team up and protect the universe together, as was Star-Lord's final wish. Give this good boy's story a read for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 2008's Nova Volume 4 number 8, or just feel free to skip ahead to his time as a Guardian in 2009's Guardians of the Galaxy number 12. Number 9. Moondragon. Heather Douglas, daughter of Drax the Destroyer, was found by Thanos' father, Mentor, who took her to his homeworld Titan to be raised by the Titanian Shaolin monks in their monastery. While there, Heather studied the Titan's way and disciplines to unlock her latent psychic potential and gained her mental and physical powers. However, she came under the influence of a powerful entity called the Dragon of the Moon, and she believed she had resisted it, which filled her with pride, and she took the name Moondragon as a result. Sadly, it also made Moondragon an incredibly arrogant lady who more than once has tried to quote-unquote fix things by controlling the minds of people. While she's not that bad now, Moondragon still has the ability to rub folks the wrong way. However, she still has a major telepathic power that can be quite valuable to any team. Not only that though, Heather is also a top-notch fighter who's trained with some of the best warriors in the entire galaxy. The fact that she can know how an opponent is going to act aids immensely in a fight. And then also for a time she had the ability to straight up just transform into an actual huge flying dragon, which is so sick, but she seems to have lost that ability somewhere down the road. Moondragon joined up with the team in Guardians of the Galaxy number 12 alongside Cosmo the Space Dog, but only after dying first. During the events of the Annihilation Conquest event, Moondragon is killed when Ultron shoves his arm just through her chest. In order to resurrect her, Phyla and Drax are killed by Mentor so they can travel to the realm of the dead and retrieve her. Phyla is able to save her just in time, and the three return to the land of the living. Moondragon then returns to Nowhere with Phyla and Drax, where she is accepted as a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Check out her story for yourself, starting with 1973's Iron Man, number 54. Number 8. Drax. Now speaking of Drax, let's talk about him for a sec. Originally, Drax was a human named Arthur Douglas who was killed alongside his family by Thanos. His spirit was resurrected by Kronos into the body of Drax to become a being powerful enough to take out Thanos. In his new body, he was far superior to a human with the ability to fly, project energy blasts from his hands, he possesses enhanced strength, and could heal from pretty much any injury. That being said though, he has shifted many times character-wise over the years, going back and forth between smart and dumb, large and average, all until the Annihilation event, where he was portrayed as smaller but much more intelligent, and that's actually the version that we're all familiar with today. Although he's not as super strong as he once was, he still is powerful and can hold his own against multiple enemies. He still heals very quickly from injuries and has enhanced senses to the point where he was able to sniff out a Skrull imposter. He also now has the tendency to look before he leaps, and in a recent attempt at pacifism, dropped his entire standing as a warrior completely. However, Drax still has to count as a major member of the Guardians who, if pressed to it, will remind people why he's called Drax the Destroyer. Check out his entire story for yourself because it is a great one, starting with 1973's Iron Man number 55. Number 7. The Thing. Although Ben Grimm, aka The Thing, is normally associated with the Fantastic Four, he did spend some time with the Guardians of the Galaxy, and for the sweetest and just most wholesome reason: to fulfill his lifelong dream of being an astronaut. Okay, fine, you caught me, that wasn't the entire reason. Ben did decide he needed a break from Earth during a period of time where Reed and Sue were lost in time, but I swear the other reason is part of it too. Now sadly, Ben's time with the Guardians wasn't too long, as during the second superhuman civil war, their ship was accidentally destroyed in a fight, stranding the Guardians on Earth, which kind of forced them to disband for a while. Now in terms of power, The Thing is one of the strongest characters in the Marvel Universe. He's faced off with the Hulk multiple times and survived, and even once beat him with the help of his friends, and has consistently clobbered the Fantastic Four's enemies time and time again. Aside from his strength and durability though, Grimm is an expert pilot and military tactician, which really sets him apart from many other members on this team. That being said though, there are other members of the team who outclass Ben in many other ways, which is why he's not higher on this list today. Check him out for yourself, starting with his first appearance in 1961's Fantastic Four, or just skip ahead to 2015's Guardians of the Galaxy number 1 to see him in action in space. Number 6. Agent Venom. Oh yeah, you heard me right. Flash Thompson, the guy who treated Peter Parker terribly in high school, was at one time a member of the Guardians of the Galaxy. Now obviously he wasn't just a regular old human being sent up into space. By this time he had been bonded to the Venom symbiote for quite some time and was known as Agent Venom, so he was actually a somewhat useful and valuable member of the team. He was placed onto the team by the Avengers to work as an agent between Earth and the rest of the cosmos, and although he was amazed by the vastness of space, he actually managed to handle this role quite well. Flash was so useful on the team because the Venom symbiote has the ability to retain superpowers of anyone it's bonded with, so it already had a ridiculous amount of powers by the time Flash was bonded with it, and went into space. In addition to many of the powers possessed by Spider-Man, it also gave Flash the ability to produce toxins, camouflage, form 2 legs to replace Flash's amputated ones, create weapons out of itself, and just so much more. Through their adventures, the true origin of the symbiote was revealed, and once it was finally healed, Flash became able to tap into its full potential. Check out Flash Thompson as Agent Venom for yourself, starting with Flash's first appearance in 1962's Amazing Fantasy number 15, or skip ahead to 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy Free Comic Book Day. Number 5. Groot. Now, I'll start off this one with something that I didn't know was a thing. Groot actually has a very complicated history in Marvel Comics, as he was originally a villain who came to Earth with the intent of capturing humans to experiment on them. It wasn't until the 2006 crossover event Annihilation Conquest where he was given a redesign into the more heroic character that we all know and love today. And then it would take another 2 years before he would join the Guardians of the Galaxy in 2008's Guardians of the Galaxy number 1. Now, for the most part, Groot has been portrayed as comic relief, especially in recent years. But in a fight, trust me, he is a serious threat. Groot has a number of superhuman qualities that make him a vital member of the team. I mean, as a living tree, he can manipulate plant life and has the ability to grow his limbs to suit his needs. His ability to do this increases his mass whenever necessary, which also increases his durability in the process. This also allows for rapid healing / regrowth whenever he's damaged or honestly feels necessary to separate parts of himself to accomplish a task. It's often hinted that Groot holds himself back a lot and hasn't shown his full abilities at all. A great example of that being in Secret Wars when, as a toothpick, he merges into the World Tree to become a massive figure that stops Dr. Doom. Check out Groot's story for yourself, starting with his very first appearance as King Groot in 1960's Tales of Astonish number 13, or skip ahead to Annihilation Conquest Starlord number 1. Number 4. Starhawk. Stakar of the House of Ogard, aka Starhawk, was a human who was raised as an Arcturan who was cursed to re-inhabit his infant body and relive his life over and over and over again. When he did this, he would be reborn with his past knowledge intact, which led to him referring to himself as one who knows, though much of his past memories would manifest in a more precognitive sense rather than just full-blown memories. His powers aren't really fully known, but he is believed to be pretty much immortal, or at least able to live for an unknown period of time. He can also manipulate light into solid forms, fly at light speeds, survive in the vacuum of space, and possesses superhuman strength and durability, and has more knowledge than any living being should have thanks to his undying curse. It's actually been indicated that the character is much stronger than he lets on, as he took on the cosmic-powered Korvac in battle and lived to tell the tale. After his undying curse was finally lifted, this mysterious figure was responsible for forming the first Guardians team and kept the cosmos safe for honestly quite some time. Give his story a read for yourself, starting with his introduction in 1975 Defenders number 27. Number 3. Adam Warlock. With his first appearance going back as far as 1967 with the publication of Fantastic Four number 66, Adam Warlock has quite the extensive history when it comes to Marvel. Since its introduction, Adam has played a pivotal role in many of Marvel's biggest storylines and events, and he has been a member of the Infinity Watch and even possessed the Infinity Gauntlet for a time. But that's not what we're here to talk about today. We are talking about him and the Guardians of the Galaxy. But before we do that, let's talk powers. In terms of powers, Adam Warlock is very high on the cosmic scale. He has a standard set of superhuman qualities including strength, stamina, speed, agility, and durability. And then additionally, he has energy manipulation and absorption powers, is an expert in the use of magic, and can manipulate matter. He joined the Guardians for a while in Guardians of the Galaxy number 1 in 2008 alongside Starlord and the other members of the modern team. As a cosmic being of immense power, he's easily one of the most powerful members of the Guardians of the Galaxy to date. Now, if you're not familiar with him, check him out in his very first appearance in Fantastic Four number 66 as him, or skip ahead to 1972's Marvel premiere number 1 to get just a little bit more of a backstory on him. Number 2. Angela. Interestingly enough, this character didn't start off as a Marvel character. Angela was originally created by Neil Gaiman and Todd McFarlane for Spawn, having first appeared in Spawn number 9 in 1993. She was first picked up by Marvel Comics for an introduction into the Marvel Universe in 2013's Age of Ultron crossover story, and was developed further in the original Sin storyline that took place in the following year. Her backstory was revamped to make her the long-lost daughter of Odin and Freya, making her Thor's older sister. Joining the Guardians of the Galaxy's roster in 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy number 9, Angela proved time and time again that she truly was Thor's sister, as she is definitely comparable in terms of power. Angela has both the powers inherent to an Asgardian as well as those possessed by an angel of the 10th realm. These traits make her immortal, give her the ability to fly, and afford her superhuman strength, agility, stamina, speed, reflexes, and endurance. She is also a master of hand-to-hand combat and melee weapon combat, and has demonstrated these abilities in conflict against the likes of Spawn, Thor, and honestly so much more. That being said though, she does have just a little bit of an ego, and that can and has been her downfall just a few times. But all things considered, having a warrior as strong as Thor with a much darker edge on your team is a pretty huge asset. Check her out in her first appearance in the Marvel Universe in 2013's Age of Ultron, number 10. Number 1. Captain Marvel. Now I'm sure we all know who Carol Danvers is, especially in recent years since she has not only appeared in the MCU and the Avengers franchise, but also got her own solo movie. She first appeared in Marvel Superheroes number 13 in 1968, and from that first appearance she has evolved into a number of different character identities, including Ms. Marvel, Binary, Warbird, and Captain Marvel, which is the name she goes by now. If you're not familiar with her powers, let me give you a bit of a rundown. Now like most superheroes, she possesses super strength, stamina, agility, durability, and can fly. But that's not all, because she also possesses vast cosmic awareness, has a slight regenerative healing factor, and can manipulate energy to do pretty much anything she puts her mind to. What's even crazier is that like many of the other characters on this list today, it's also said that she has not shown the full potential of her powers either, meaning she can only get stronger from here, which I can't even fathom. She joined up with the Guardians of the Galaxy alongside Agent Venom in 2014's Guardians of the Galaxy Free Comic Book Day, and although her time with them was pretty short, she was a huge asset for the team. Now it was so short because she is a military gal, so she sometimes clashed with her laid-back attitude, and also because as a woman who's used to being the leader, she didn't really like playing second fiddle to Starlord. Nowadays, Carol sticks to hanging around Earth, but her tenure on the team gave the Guardians some serious firepower, to say the least. Check her out in her first appearance in 1968's Marvel Superheroes, number 13.
In at number 10, Peter's music. Starting off this list, we've got a theory about Peter and his music, and why he's so attached to it. Now the obvious reason is because it's a connection to his mother. She have riffed off that sentiment, and think his attachment is also due to his connection to Earth, theorizing that Peter hasn't been back to Earth in almost 23 years. Meaning that his mixtape is the only English that he's heard over the course of the time that he's been away. While the films are in English, that doesn't mean the primary language is spoken in English. Food for thought. And at number 9, Slither and Guardians. On a sillier note, another theory kicking around in the interwebs has connected Guardians of the Galaxy to one of director James Gunn's earlier films, Slither. Slither is a 2006 black comedy horror, and was Gunn's directorial debut, and it plays with some pretty goofy horror tropes.
Disgusting. Don't let him in your mouth! It will change the face of horror.
Marriage is a sacred bond, for better or worse.
Much worse.
In one scene, there's a slug that is on a planet that isn't Earth, and it attacks a rat-like creature. In Guardians of the Galaxy 1, the space slugs that are in Slither make an appearance in the scene at the Collectors. Fans have speculated that the rat creature in Slither is the Orlani, which is a race of rat-like creatures that appear in both Guardian films. You know, the ones that Groot ends up punching in the beginning of the second film? Which hypothetically makes those slugs the same species as the ones in Slither that ended up on Earth. In our number 8 spot, Mantis is Ego's daughter. When we meet Mantis, she tells the Guardians that Ego had found her on her home planet where she was in her larvae state. This has led people to wonder why Ego was on her home planet in the first place, and if he was there on his quest to hunt down his offspring. While he kills those who don't exhibit celestial powers, he may have seen Mantis's powers as useful in other ways, and chose to keep her alive.
If I touch someone, I can feel their feelings.
And at number 7, Avengers playing D&D. A fun theory from Tumblr account Blue and Orange, this one speculates that the Guardians of the Galaxy are actually the Avengers playing Dungeons & Dragons, and all of the characters are a result of that. And despite the characters now being well acquainted in the MCU, this theory still makes for a good laugh, and some of the arguments are actually pretty great. Tony Stark is supposed to be playing a Starlord. They're both sarcastic and womanizers. Black Widow is Gamora, a master assassin raised from childhood. Hawkeye is Yondu, because arrows. And Thor is Drax, who is also ignorant of Earth's social norms. While obviously this theory doesn't pan out at all, we would like to think that maybe later on down the road the Avengers may bust out a game of D&D, and use their new pals as characters.
Wishful thinking much? And at number 6, Rocket was created by Thanos. James Gunn has noted that we'll be getting to know a lot more about Rocket Raccoon's backstory in the upcoming film, saying, I quote, "It's going to be a little different from the comics. It's a little bit more horrible." Ugh. Now during Volume 2 we got a moment with Nebula in which she got into the details of what Thanos used to do to her whenever she failed to beat Gamora in combat. Fans may recall that Rocket had a similarly gruesome description of his own origins in Volume 1, which has led to the speculation that perhaps Thanos was behind Rocket's creation.
I didn't ask to be torn apart and put back together over and over and turned into some little monster.
Rocket, no one's calling you a monster.
All that being said, by the time that we see the Guardians' next solo film, Thanos may be long gone, depending on what goes down in the upcoming 4th Avengers movie. Up next, number 5, Adam Warlock. High Priestess Aisha, the leader of the Sovereign, initially hired the Guardians, but now she and her people are their enemies. During the post-credit scene in Guardians Volume 2, Aisha is seen discussing a new creation of hers that she plans on using against the Guardians, and says, "I think I shall call him Adam." It's then revealed she's looking at a cocoon structure similar to Adam Warlock's in the comics. James Gunn has yet to confirm that Warlock will appear in the film, saying, I quote, "Who knows how long it will take for him to bake in that cocoon." Fans are speculating that he'll initially be the villain in the 3rd film, although he may turn to the side of good fairly quickly. That being said, some are still hopeful that he'll somehow play into the Infinity War storyline, considering that Adam Warlock was a massive part of the Infinity Gauntlet miniseries that the 3rd Avengers film was primarily based off of. Regardless, it seems likely that he will play a part in the Guardians story in some way or form. And at number 4, Groot is part of the Yggdrasil tree. The Yggdrasil tree is mentioned in various occasions throughout the MCU. In Captain America: The First Avenger, Red Skull discusses it in his first scene of the film, while looking at a carving of it on a wall, calling it the Guardian of Wisdom and Fate. It's mentioned in the Thor films as the tree that connects the 9 realms. We know that Groot, when destroyed, can generate into another living Groot, which is what spawned the theory. It would also explain why Groot's criminal record at the Nova Corps reads Origin X, although the latter seems to be a bit of a long shot. Up next, number 3, Peter's powers in Nowhere. Some fans have taken it upon themselves to try to decipher the space coordinates that appear throughout the Guardians films, by swapping out the numbers and the coordinates to letters. Nowhere, which is where the Guardians are headed to in their next film, had coordinates that translated to Meredith Quill X, which some people assumed means that there is another part of Ego, who was her ex, located on Nowhere. Nowhere is already known to possess a severed celestial head. Could there be a connection? In our number 2 spot, Peter didn't lose his powers. In Guardians Volume 2, when Ego is destroyed, Peter is supposed to lose his powers, since his celestial abilities are directly tied to his father. One theory from a Reddit user named Corey Oreo claims that Peter didn't actually lose his powers in the battle against Ego, but that he still retained them, and that Ego was lying to him about losing them. This comes from the logic that if both of their powers draw from the same finite source, a second outlet doesn't double it, it just splits it in half of what each of them get. Meaning if Peter was pulling his powers from the power at the center of Ego's planet, Ego wouldn't be able to access his full extent of powers, because someone else is grabbing that energy. Interesting, but perhaps not entirely plausible. And last but not least, in our number 1 spot, all the Guardians die. Bleak, yeah? James Gunn has stated in multiple interviews that the team of Guardians in Volume 3 will be the last time that we see the current Guardians team. This could mean that the group could diversify. It could lose a member. Or, as some are suggesting, it could mean the Guardians will all die at the end of Volume 3. It seems a bit excessive, but if Adam Warlock is the villain they go up against, there's a fairly good chance that defeat is in their cards. Or maybe that's not the reason at all. All that being said, there's a lot to consider when we look at the events of Avengers Infinity War. While most are assuming that Thanos' snap that eliminated half of all living things will be reversed, many are speculating that Gamora's death won't be reversible, since Thanos had sacrificed her prior to, in order to obtain the Soul Stone. Currently, only Rocket and Nebula are left remaining after Infinity War, which also suggests that if certain members can't be brought back to life, Rocket may be the one leading the Guardians for Volume 3. He was the leader of the group in the comics for a duration of time. But that doesn't really line up with what James Gunn had said about that being the last time that we see all of the Guardians together. Will they really put us through that emotional turmoil of having all the characters return in the 4th Avengers film only to kill them all off again? It seems a little unlikely. Maybe they just part ways, I don't know. And at number 10, Gamora is really dead. In Infinity War, we got to learn a lot more about the history between Thanos and his adoptive daughter Gamora. In order to obtain the Soul Stone on Vormir, Thanos had to sacrifice something that he truly loved. While Gamora laughed at the fact that she believed Thanos could never love anyone, I guess joke's on her cause Thanos got emotional, and then sacrificed her in order to get the stone. Ouch. She wasn't the only casualty either. Many other characters lost their lives in the film, most of which bit the dust thanks to Thanos' snap that eliminated half of all living things. Spoilers! This theory speculates that unlike those who were dusted, Gamora won't be coming back to life since her death occurred before the snap. Now that being said, Thanos spoke to a younger version of her when he seemingly entered the Soul Stone after the snap. Soul World! So there is hope that she isn't gone for good. But many believe that Gamora, along with Heimdall, Vision, and perhaps Loki, if he didn't pull off a sly trick, won't be making a return. Feel like Loki will though. Moving on to number 9, Drax's End. When we first met Drax, his one goal in life was to kill Ronan the Accuser for murdering his family. Good goal. His goal then changed after Ronan's defeat, migrating to Thanos, who was more so responsible for the galactic genocides taking place beyond races other than just Drax's. While some believe that Drax will somehow be involved in the final battle against Thanos, many believe that he just might end up dead in the process. In that much more grim theory, people have speculated that Drax might get killed off altogether in that final battle. Rumor has it that Dave Bautista is considering a full-time return to the WWE, which is where he started his career as a wrestler long before becoming an actor, if you don't consider that as actually acting. While the rumors have yet to be confirmed or denied, it's still a possibility, and would provide an easy way for the character to bow out, especially considering Bautista's outspoken disapproval of director James Gunn's firing. Moving on to number 8, Groot doesn't dance for Drax. This one might actually add up pretty well. So, on multiple occasions, you may have noticed when baby Groot dances, he stops dancing whenever Drax looks at him. Why would he need to hide his adorable little jig from the character? Well, according to Redditor Lieutenant Commander Carter, perhaps the reason why baby Groot freezes on the spot is because he thinks dancing upsets Drax. The theory suggests that Groot doesn't want to dance in front of him because he loves and respects him. In Volume 2, Drax comments that his murdered wife never danced, and that it was a good thing. So Groot never lets Drax see him dance because he doesn't want to seem frivolous or disrespectful to Drax's ways. That's definitely one way to take a deeper look into that adorable post-credit scene from the first Guardians film, isn't it? Dancin' Groot. Moving on to number 7, Earth's music. Another theory found on Reddit, this one crafted up by user Kodoro, dives further into why music is such a key part of the Guardians movies. So, for starters, it's undeniable that both of the Guardians of the Galaxy films, Volume 1 and 2, have phenomenal soundtracks. Second, we know how much music means to Peter Quill since his mixtape was the last gift from his mother, and really his only connection to her while out in the galaxy. But that music also resonates with many other individuals in the galaxy who come across it throughout the movies. All the other Guardians like the music. Groot dances to the tracks multiple times. The prison guard in the first film takes Peter's Walkman and tries to steal it altogether, and so on. So, what's the big deal, other than his tunes are really good? Well, this theory speculates that Earth's taste in music is actually incredibly advanced compared to other races out there, with many others having more of a primitive rhythm to their music compared to the kinds of artists that Peter has on his mixtapes. And at number 6, Nova's introduction. James Gunn had leaked a little while back that Marvel Studios were considering introducing superhero Nova into the fray, but that he wasn't planning on introducing the character into the Guardians movies. Now, we've already seen the Nova Corps in the Guardians films, but don't be mistaken, Gunn was discussing the character Nova, who is a member of the Corps as an intergalactic police officer. Nova was first introduced in the comics in 1976, created by Marv Wolfman and John Romita Sr. years before, but officially became Nova in a comic called The Man Called Nova. He was intended to be an homage to Stan Lee and Steve Ditko's Spider-Man, but in space. There are a few theories concerning how Nova will be integrated, or whether now that Gunn is out, if he'll even be considered as part of the MCU. But perhaps the most interesting theory is that Thanos' actions in Infinity War are the catalyst to Nova's MCU introduction. The theory suggests that the Nova Corps and Xandar were likely wiped out by Thanos, considering he got his hands on the Power Stone that they had put under their care at the end of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 1. Now consider the plotline of A Man Called Nova. Xandar is destroyed by a villain who claims to be Thanos' child, and one Nova soldier manages to escape to Earth. That soldier is Roman Day, who already exists in the MCU, and is played by John C. Reilly. Roman finds a high school student who ends up becoming his predecessor, a kid named Richard Rider, who then becomes Nova. So it would make sense for the story to be adapted into the MCU, since its setup wouldn't be too difficult. The question is, now that James Gunn is out of the picture, would Marvel Studios prefer to follow the Nova Corps storyline in the Guardians movies and reveal this new hero there, perhaps setting up his character as one of the future Guardians of the Galaxies that will be replacing the current iteration? So many questions, but I mean, totally plausible. Now before we continue our list, we're just gonna take a quick pause in between numbers to tell you a little bit more about our awesome sponsor for this video, Wix. Getting your own website is so very important in this technology-driven world that we live in. Regardless of what industry you work in, Wix gives you an infinite amount of possibilities to craft exactly the kind of website you want, limited only by your own imagination. They do all of the heavy lifting with reliable hosting to keep your site safe and secure, offering custom domains and mailboxes, email marketing, and so much more. It doesn't matter if you're brand new to web building, a novice, a business owner, or a professional website builder. The technology that Wix boasts makes achieving your digital creation a smooth ride, with templates you can choose from, or a blank slate for you to craft your site from scratch. And there's a ton of features that you can use to boost your content, from pro galleries to video hosting to bookings. Perfect for e-commerce, artists, hotels, events, restaurants, you name it. And we've also whipped up our own little website on Wix for you guys to check out. It's a fan theory website where you guys can submit your own fan theories or fan theories that you love. Now be sure to check it out, the link is in the video description below, and is right underneath me too for that matter. Alright, back to the theories now. Moving on to number 5, Rocket and NASA. Now there's been a lot of speculation as to Rocket's origin story. Now in our last list, part 1, we broke down a theory that suggested Thanos was responsible for making Rocket, considering he and Nebula have kind of similar stories when it comes to biomodifications and robotics. Now we know Rocket was cybernetically engineered, hence why he's so highly intelligent. We also know he was tortured while being transformed into what he is today, which is why he's really sensitive. Now this theory diverts from the Thanos one, and speculates that the source of Rocket's engineering is much closer to home. From Redditor Atoreg, the theory suggests that Rocket is actually a NASA experiment gone wrong, and that he was shot into space as an ordinary raccoon. Space trash panda. And from there, ended up somewhere along the lines of Sakaar, which is where he was experimented on by a number of curious individuals, perhaps by one of the Grandmaster's crew. This also serves as an explanation as to why he growled back at Cosmo the space dog. He was Russian, and was also shot up into space. The two may have previously crossed paths when they were both shot up into space during the Cold War. And at number 4, Eternity. This theory, another one to pop out of Reddit by user ZooBoy42, is based on a line that is spoken in Guardians Volume 2, when Ego taps Peter on the head to show him the universe. Peter, in response, then says, "I see it, eternity." The Redditor suggests that rather than this being a throwaway line, or Peter trying his best to describe what he sees, perhaps he's actually referring to the celestial entity, Eternity, which could slowly be laying down the groundwork for the Celestials to be introduced in the upcoming MCU films. There's already a whole lot of speculation that Doctor Strange will be interacting with the Living Tribunal in the upcoming 4th Avengers movie, so it would not be a shocker if the Celestials will become much more present in the MCU overall, and Eternity could easily make an appearance in the Guardians films if and when Adam Warlock decides to pop up. To have a wee bit of a history. Moving on to number 3, Mantis's purpose. After Mantis's introduction in Guardians Volume 2, there was quite the stir online about the character, including a theory that speculated that she was Peter's half-sister, and that Ego had fathered her with a mother of her species. Now in the film we do see evidence that Ego had hooked up with someone of Mantis's species, which James Gunn later confirmed on Instagram, although he would later note that the sibling theory was not true. We also know that Mantis will continue to play a role in the Guardians movies moving forward, since she's confirmed to be in Volume 3. But ever since Avengers Infinity War came out, a new theory has emerged about Mantis, one that speculates that she will be the Celestial Madonna. Now upon discovering Thor in Infinity War, the Guardians, minus Quill, are all captivated by his handsomeness and muscular figure. Mantis speaks up and says it's like his muscles are made of Kotati metal fibers. Now in the comics, the Kotati are a race of telepathic humanoid tree creatures who live on a planet with the Kree. They also have a prophecy concerning a Celestial Madonna, something that in the comics, the Kree believe Mantis will become, eventually mating with the eldest Kotati on Earth and eventually becoming the most important being in the universe. Yeah, that's a big job. Perhaps Mantis will become invaluable in Volume 3, perhaps facing off against Adam Warlock if the theory about him first appearing as a Guardians villain comes true. Either way, it would be really cool to see Mantis step up and do something really awesome, aside from, you know, making Peter Quill feel uncomfortable about his feelings. And at number 2, Thor joins the team. After the events of Infinity War, and pretty much the loss of almost every Asgardian left alive, many a fan has wondered if Thor, after the 4th Avengers movie, will retire from being an Avenger, and perhaps become a Guardian instead. Now we know that the 3rd Guardians film will be the last iteration of the current Guardians team, but we don't know whether that means if some of its current members will still stay on the team. Fans have speculated because of the bond that Rocket, Groot, and Thor established in Infinity War, Thor may be inclined to join up with them and adventure around the galaxy if Cap dies, if Tony retires, and if Hulk does, well, something. That hopefully involves better CGI than Mark Ruffalo in the Hulkbuster suit. Just saying. In a theory posted by Redditor Callie0, the theory suggests that since Thor has lost his people, his culture, and likely the other Avengers, if he survives the upcoming Avengers movie, he's gonna be pretty aimless. Except that we've seen how awesome Thor's adventures are in space thanks to Thor Ragnarok. And Chris Hemsworth was also a big fan of how great Ragnarok turned out. So Thor could very well end up joining with Nova, Rocket, and Groot and be a part of the next version of the team. Who knows? I mean, hey, it'd be a really interesting team if that happened. And finally, and at number 1, the timeline. Due to the deaths that occurred in Infinity War, specifically Gamora's, some fans have speculated that Volume 3 will take place prior to the events of Infinity War. Back when James Gunn was set to direct the 3rd installment of the series, he had revealed that Volume 3 would be the last time that we saw the current iteration of the Guardians altogether. The Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 2 occurred 4 years before the events of Infinity War, and the upcoming Captain Marvel film is set to take place in the 90s, so we know that the MCU isn't a stranger to time jumps, or having their film timelines occur in a non-linear fashion. It could make perfect sense, and it could be emotionally much more impactful if we get to see Gamora one last time, knowing that she's now deceased. Talk about painful. Plus, if Adam Warlock is introduced, and there is a whole adventure in the Soul World, perhaps, maybe we'll end up seeing him and Gamora get together, which is what happens in the comics, so maybe it won't be the end of Gamora after all, but it might be the end of her tenure on the Guardians team.